Yes, as you have very interestingly pointed out, there are two Congresswalas here on stage with us. So let me get straight off the mark and ask you, Dr. Sangma, what is new politics? Do you think that the days are now numbered for parties who have failed to wake up to the reality of the changing situation of India?
Thank you. You have already put a little bit of partly the answer already in your question itself. New politics is when one keeps connected to the ground reality and is receptive to the changes that is required, in a nutshell. And every strategy of a political party, which revolves around that whole context that I referred to, is something which can be called as a new politics. And that's why the most important part is whether we are connected to the ground realities and we are receptive to any change that we need. And if we are receptive to changes, because human mind does not live in stagnation. And the situation, there are lots of dynamism in our socio-economic landscape, in our political landscape, and we must be able to keep pace with these changes, and we must be receptive to changes. We must be capable of innovating. We must be capable of being, creative. That is what new politics is all about.
But you're speaking about things that you must do. Are these things actually being done? And I want to ask you that question, Pradyut, because, and be honest, you have been honest in the interactions that we've had so far. Even in your politics, you've been pretty outspoken. Are the established political parties really awake to what's happening around the country? Because since we started with talking about the Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi, you will have to admit that it hit them like a bolt from the blue. Both the parties had no idea what was happening. They were caught completely unawares. Are the Congress and BJP really aware of what people in this country are thinking now?
First of all, you asked me about the Aam Aadmi phenomenon, and I've been honest about it. And congratulations to them. I believe they've just formed the government today with the help of the Congress party, which they decried and they derided. You see, when you come to power, and it's not only Congress and BJP in this country, there are a lot of other parties. In the south, you have the DMK, you have the AIA-DMK, you have the BSP, you have the Samajwadi Party in UP, you have the Communists in Tripura as well as in West Bengal, and Trinamool now. When you come to power, you come on a few promises and on bringing about change. Aam Aadmi Party has come on primarily three issues. Corruption. Every political party in this country says openly that they would fight corruption, including BSP, Samajwadi Party. Aam Aadmi Party came in on local issues such as 700 liters of drinking water, power tariff, right? Now we will see how they bring about change, because it is one thing to say it when you're in the opposition and when you're trying to be Robin Hood. It's another thing when you actually take the mantle of power and then take decisions. In 6 months, you will know.
But don't you think it's exactly this sort of cynicism, because I do detect a slight cynicism even now. You're calling them Robin Hoods.
Yeah, Robin Hood is a great character.
Yeah, but the fact is,
so is
you're still extending them support, and they've managed to get 28 seats.
You know,
and the three-time Chief Minister of Delhi, Dr. Sangma, received a drubbing in her own constituency, and she wasn't even second. She was third.
That's a reflection of disconnect from the person concerned who is defeated. It's a reflection of disconnect. That's what I was referring to. And you would appreciate the ground reality today. It's a question of how we connect to the people, how we enlighten the people, and how people are actually capable of being receptive to what we actually mean. Whether people are gullible or not. Those are important things. Now, if somebody is saying that, okay, I will do these promises, it is incumbent upon the people who are in power to undo it and enlighten the people. Look, it is not possible at all. I think there has been quite an amount of complacency from the people who are in power, and that is again
like
reflected by the
leadership?
kind of the margin with which they have been defeated, and from the kind of the kind of the versions which were being shared even during the time of campaigning by the persons concerned who were defeated. So it is important as to how we deal with any kind of campaign, any kind of campaign. Now somebody talks about price rise, and everybody is receptive to that issue because price rise affects every household. But I will tell you one thing today, that if you're talking about the price, particularly when, when somebody refers to the price which every household has to buy every day, whether it is onion, whether it is vegetable, what is important for us to understand is, again, get connected to the ground reality. And it is important for politicians also to get connected to this ground reality and tell the people what exactly is happening. I remember meeting women in my own constituency, in my own district when I drive. Hundreds of women going to Assam in search of wages. I'm referring to the agricultural workforce. And as I meet them on the way when they return in the evening, I take it as a privilege to ask them, so you're coming back after working there? How much wages are you being paid? They used to be paid 40 rupees, 30 rupees. That's the kind of wages. I'm talking about a wages which was around 8 years back. Now, what was happening was that because of this, the agricultural sector, or in other words, farming was not being perceived as something remunerative. That was one of the reasons why you see lots of people migrating from rural to urban. If you look at the census, you will also see and appreciate the figure that the population of the agricultural workforce have been declining. Why is it? Is it because people are thinking that agriculture sector is not remunerative? If so, why is it? You see, the reason was that every farm product which is sold in the market is expected to be cheap. Why should, as a farmer, I should sell my products at a cheap price, and I should be subjected to buy something else which is not farm products, and I am expected to pay more? Now, this has been changed by a revolutionary program which has been initiated by the government of India. Now, our farsightedness to actually liberate the people from this kind of discrimination in respect of getting underpaid even from the minimum wages. I would refer to the revolutionary program, which I used to refer to as the most talked about financial or economic stimulus in the country. That is the MGNREGS, under which people in the rural areas are actually guaranteed 100 days of wages. And not only they are guaranteed, the minimum wages is also fixed. Therefore, suddenly you see, okay, the farm sector, who were able to actually employ the agricultural workforce at 40, 50 rupees once upon a time. Today, you look for farm workers, the agricultural workforce, you will not get even at 200 rupees. Therefore, the price has gone up. But whether anybody is trying to actually enlighten the consumer that this is one of the reasons, we are actually doing justice, we are stabilizing the economy of the nation.
Which is great, Dr. Sangma,
Yes.
but this very futuristic scheme that you spoke about,
Yes.
in addition to that, there was the additional food security scheme,
Yes.
and there were also the numerous benefits
Yes.
which were rolled out across all
Right.
states. None of them paid off, and which is why I'm talking about the new politics. That the
Because
politics of dole
yes,
and
I will tell
politics
you,
of my
because
baap,
nobody is concerned to fight corruption. Even the people, even the electors are not concerned to fight corruption. You know, otherwise they would understand. Why is this food security bill? And why has it been passed to make it an act? Because thousands of crores of rupees have been actually spent all these years to provide provision for the people through the PDS system, public distribution system. But are people actually getting them? Government is spending lots of money, but actually people are not getting them because there is no law to actually run after those people who are actually misusing them. Therefore, the Food Security Act, which actually allows entitlement to the mandate of law, that means anybody who does not receive his quota, which is entitled for him or her, for the family, they can actually assert, based on the mandate of the law, that they are guaranteed to receive their quota. Therefore, you are in a position to actually run after those people wherever there is a dislocation in distribution system and actually pin them down and enforce it effectively so that the money which are being spent for the people from the taxpayer money is not wasted through corrupt means.
So you're saying the intention was noble, but in the execution, there wasn't enough enforcement to ensure that there was no corruption.
All along, because there is no law to actually ensure that the enforcement, if not done properly, then there should be somebody whose head should be rolling. But today, the law ensures that, okay, if people who are entitled, if they don't receive, then the law allows a system wherein the household should be compensated, and if it is compensated, then we try to find out why they have to be compensated, who is responsible for these irregularities of distribution, and we take action. So all these years, it has not happened. Today, with the introduction and ultimate consideration of the Parliament to allow this new act, in the long run, we will be able to ensure that the food which is provided for the poor under the public distribution system, for which hundreds of thousands of crores of rupees from the public money, from the taxpayers' money is being spent, are actually meant to reach the targeted people. That is what people are not getting it right. But the purpose and the spirit of the act is this, not that it is just a subsidy to dole out, not that it is a populist, because it has been there for all along, and the money has not actually met the impact which it was actually designed for.
Well, but the people who cast their votes across 4 states, actually, the 5th one, the Congress.
Now, another thing, let me say, I think it is time for me to also enlighten other friends. Now, somebody says that I will slash down the electricity tariff by 50%. You know, there is a mechanism. There is an electricity regulatory commission for every state, based on the Electricity Act 2003, which actually replaced the earlier outdated act. And under this act, no distribution company can actually fix tariff arbitrarily. They have to be regulated by a commissioner. And there is a formula based on which the tariff is fixed. I feel quite, I'm quite surprised at how enlightened community of Delhi doesn't know this. How can somebody say that I will, slash down the tariff by 50%? How can it? It will sink economically, the Delhi government will sink. It is not possible at all, particularly in a city where they have to depend on the power which is being brought from others, which is bought by the, the power utility service providers. So the whole result, the outcome of the election, actually reflects that people themselves were not enlightened as to how electricity tariff is fixed. Therefore, people could be made gullible. That's why they voted.
So this was an emotional response, not
Yes.
a practical response.
No.
All right, so they've set a 1-month
So
deadline
the
for
only thing is
themselves.
that the people in power should have countered it. People who should have gone and educated the people, the electorates. They didn't do it. That's why they had to pay the price.
Okay, so I want to ask you, Pradyut, as someone who was involved with the Youth Congress and now full-fledged with the Congress, the great hope for our country next year, as far as the Congress is concerned, is someone who many would argue has already failed in the first test that he had to face. And after that, he came before the country and he said, we are going to involve youth in ways that you can't imagine. So as someone who is quite familiar with the ways in which the coterie in the Congress works, since we can't imagine it, would you care to enlighten us?
See, I know you're referring to Rahul Gandhi. And I always get asked this question. To bring about change, to bring in youth into politics, and I really like the way at times, and when we say that he has failed, I mean, he has succeeded in 2009. He did succeed in 2007 in other states. But we only look at the failure of a gentleman. Fine. Let's look at it from the different perspective.
No, but that's not fair. He wasn't full-fledged into campaigning for the Congress in 2009.
In UP, I think we were in number 1 or number 2 place, equal with Samajwadi Party in UP. Largely became due to that. The structural reforms that you're talking in the Youth Congress was initiated by Rahul Gandhi to bring in the youth into the party. Today, as a 35-year-old person, that I am in PCC now, is a reason because I actually was given an opportunity to come into Congress. to have a say and to feel involved. A lot of people have come in, a lot of people have left. But then this is an ongoing systemic process. To condemn a person for something to start to involve youth in the political system is, I think, very unfortunate. Yes, there are problems. Every big party, every political party has problems. You mentioned that Sheila Dikshit came third. You know, in 1977, Indira Gandhi lost the elections to Raj Narayan by 1,14,000 votes. She came back 3 years later.
No, but the thing is that he had promised new politics. When we saw the last cabinet reshuffle, the average age of the cabinet actually went up. You had a Shishram Ola, the late Shishram Ola, being inducted into the cabinet. And this is just a few months after we were told, you know, there's going to be a complete revamp. You're going to see a whole new kind of politics, a young politics, which a young India like this deserves.
See, a young India deserves young politicians. They also deserve politicians with experience. There has to be a blend.
What was the blend?
The blend was that you did have people like Sachin Pilot coming in. You did have Jyotiraditya Scindia coming in. You had Milan coming in. You've had some young people coming in as well. What are we trying to say? That only young people deserve to rule this country, and anyone who's above 45 or 50 should be shunted out? In
No,
that
but have
case,
you addressed the aspirations of a middle class India? I mean, let's face it. Most of the people you named, all the people you named, are people who have famous last names.
Okay.
What about a young aspirational India? Can a young person in this audience stand up and think that one day we could be in the PCC?
Let me say something. There were other political families which were extremely powerful and relevant in the 70s and the 80s. Today they are nowhere there because people shunted them out.
Or some say they fell out of favor.
Or they fell out of favor.
With the high command.
But people eventually didn't elect them. And it's an ongoing process where newer families will get into it and certain families will go out of it. But eventually your induction to politics may be easy because of your famous last name. But you have to go back to the people and get elected. And the first time, and you are equally scrutinized, and yes, there are, it's in every industry. India Today Group is one example. You look at film industry, Dharmendra ka beta, Abhay Deol, Sunny Deol, Amitabh Bachchan, Abhishek Bachchan. You talk about the great corporate sector. When Anil Ambani and Mukesh Ambani are fighting, it's like a Hindi film where two brothers are fighting and the mother has to mediate. In India, this is a factual fact that people do pass on their genes and their profession to the youngsters. You cannot, but eventually you have to win an election. So you cannot say that these people should be discriminated because they're born in certain families.
Do you wish that more such voices, such as yourself, would be heard? Realistically speaking, how many of your voices are actually heard, or is it still one family? And I'm asking you this, of course, the same can be said for other political parties as well, but since both of you are representatives of the Congress, how much weight does your voice really have at the end of the day outside of the coterie?
You see, as such, any idea which is worth being picked up is picked up. If I ideate and share something great, something good, that is picked up. That is what being heard is all about. And that is how we can actually think of something which we are saying as transformative changes in political landscape. And today, with the kind of access that is being created by the leadership in Congress, under the dynamic leadership of our Vice President Congress, what has he said? He is saying that instead of saying that, okay, things are not good, join us and be there yourself to be a game changer. It again refers back to, if you want to change, be yourself the game changer. Be yourself the change. And here, that kind of platform has been created in a manner which is so democratic. I was thinking, why is it so democratic that you are allowing everybody to join, as Youth Congress? But there is some vision behind it. And then I referred back to what actually was the scenario in my state itself. In 1993, when I first contested election, I was the youngest one who was elected. In 1993, long time ago, so I sound very old now. So that was 1993. And that time there were not too many young legislators in Meghalaya. Then second election in 1998, I saw many other young friends joining the electoral fray, and many more were elected. Then in 2003 only, you know, the same kind of trend was seen in this part of the state, in Khasi Jaintia Hills. Then some more younger generations actually joined the politics, and people were quite receptive to the younger politicians making their debut, and they were elected. And today, I will tell you that in the House of 60% of the legislators are young in Meghalaya Legislative Assembly. I had a privilege to go to Mizoram, as we usually do whenever there is an election campaign. So one day when I was campaigning in Mizoram for the party, I was there in the capacity of a minister though, then all the candidates whom we were campaigning for were all either retired bureaucrat or somebody who is above 60 years old. But today, things have changed even in Mizoram. So these transformative changes cannot take place overnight. But there has to be somebody who set the trend, and that trend is already visible in Congress. Today, you will say that, okay, every failure should be, somehow shifted to his responsibility. That is what is being done
But isn't that the new mantra now? Either you perform or you perish. In politics,
again,
people seem to have run out of patience.
I want to share with you one very important aspect from the correct perspective, which one should look at and which probably will be, agreed to by you also. Now, there is a government. There is a government led by the Prime Minister, not by Rahul Gandhi ji. Now, here is a government led by Dr. Mukul Sangma. If I don't perform, if I don't actually deliver, instead of me, ultimately they will target the party. Today, people don't have to target the party, they have to target the Chief Minister. Because the government is performing. Government is being perceived as performing. Today, a perception has been created that, okay, something is wrong. Something is wrong in the affairs of the governance in Delhi. It's a perception which needs to be correctly handled. We will do it. We will correctly handle them. It needs to be correctly handled so that correct perspective about the good things that has happened is passed on to the people.
So who didn't handle it correctly?
You see, that's why I'm saying there has been certain amount of complacency. When you think that you are doing lots of good things, then you tend to take people for granted that, okay, people will know. I used to give an example of a classroom. When a teacher teaches, you have 40 children whom you are teaching. There will be some number of children who will immediately capture whatever is being taught. He or she has the capacity of absorbing whatever is being taught. But it's not same with everybody. For some people, you have to repeatedly tell them so that they are in the end capable of absorbing what we are teaching. So similarly, when we are dealing with the electorate all across the nation, these are very important. Today, many good things have happened. But it's almost like, if there's a black spot in a white screen, the black spot actually draws the attention.
No, but
that is what is exactly happening.
But
now today we are talking about, various issues which are an offshoot of some revolutionary decision of the party, RTI. Why was the RTI allowed to be passed? Because people of the country were required to be empowered. And that is the most, I should say it's a revolutionary decision in the democracy. That today people are given the privilege of accessing to information, which was earlier confined to only the elected representatives within the boundaries of parliament or within the boundaries of state legislatures. Today, it is no longer the monopoly of the elected representatives to seek any information. So you have given this power. Therefore, there are bound to be many other, irregularities which have been committed earlier that will come out, that people then might not have thought ki hum pakra jayega ki RTI hoga nahi hoga. People never bothered probably, So today suddenly they are caught. Okay, RTI is there.
It's interesting you brought that up, Dr.
So this is a revolutionary decision which has brought these transformative changes in our socio-economic and political landscape. And this is good for the nation, but somebody has taken the bold decision. That's the Congress, that's the leadership of the Congress. We only need to connect it appropriately to the people. Tell them, why today everybody is talking about corruption? Was there no corruption in 70s or 80s during the regime of various governments? Yes. So many corrupt. I will tell you, I will tell you one thing. One day I was in one of the shops, which I used to frequently actually enter in Khan Market. That was when all the shopping malls were actually coming up around Delhi and NCR. Then I asked the salesman, how are you? He said, sir, you have come after a long time. I said, yes. How is it doing, the business? He said, good. I said, even after the shopping malls and all? He said, yes. Sir, I don't know. Delhi mein aadmi ka paas itna paisa hai. I don't know where they get money from. Then I told him in a lighter vein, you know what? Thousands of crores of rupees, which are budgeted for the various developmental works across the nation, most of this money come back to Delhi. That is the truth. I tell you today, if people are talking about corruption, they are neck deep in corruption. But the thing is that a good thing has happened because of the revolutionary decision of the leadership. No political party probably would have ever thought of, giving this kind of power to the people, which is transforming this nation. It is good for the nation. It is good for our present and future generation. That's a good thing about what is happening.
Well, absolutely. RTI is revolutionary. It's another thing that the political parties themselves don't want to come under the ambit of the RTI, but that's a debate for some other day. You brought about the issue of the right to information, transparency. Within the party, how much transparency is really there? Because the workings of what really goes on in people's minds is a mystery to everyone else. We wait from election to election, manifesto to manifesto, to read really what is going on in their minds. Why this complete lack of communication? Why is there this wall?
I don't think it's very accurate to say that. I will just say one thing. You were talking about politics, and I'll come back to your question after that. If good people are not willing to enter politics, they should stop complaining bad people ruling them. And that's a true fact that if we want to engage and if we want to build a country, then we need more youngsters to also come and join. Today, politics is probably not the first profession for various reasons. Coming back to transparency within the political party, once the process of democratization started under Rahul Gandhi in 2006-07, someone like me or anyone else, we've had an opportunity to vent out our frustration, our differences. And I'll give you an example. Someone like me, I'm extremely against cross-border infiltration, which comes from Bangladesh to Tripura. Or the matter of which Bina Lakshmi has been speaking very openly. And I can say this in your platform. I will not get hung by my party for saying that I'm personally against Armed Forces Special Powers Act. And I've repeatedly raised them in my platform, and nobody has tried to silence me from the Congress party. This is very different from something like the Bharatiya Janata Party, where even something as recent as Article 377 is a big no-no because their leadership tells them is dictated from Nagpur, where they have to follow a certain ideology. Congress is more about internal discussion and debate, and that's the reason I feel that we are much more transparent than we ever were.
The third point that we wanted to touch upon was...
Thank you. You can clap louder if you want. We are not so unpopular. We are not criminals as well. Not yet, at least.
Okay, straw poll. How many of you think that the leaders that we have with us on stage are accessible, that they are communicative? Show of hands, please. Fairly large number.
Facebook, we are in Facebook now.
Yeah, and that brings me to my next point that I want to talk about. Do you think that you've woken up very late? The polity in general has woken up very late with the need to maybe engage more with the people. In fact, you also have a Twitter profile now. Both of you do. You are accessible on Facebook as well. But this is something where new parties are increasingly capitalizing on. They realize that their voter base is younger, first-time voters, urban youth, and they can engage with them through all of this. Were you late in capitalizing on it? I would like to start with you.
You see, there is a mechanism which is comprehensive. It's not in silo. Everything has to be integrated, and we must utilize all means available to remain connected. And when we say we need to remain connected, we need to remain connected to all categories of people. people who are not capable of actually having access to the social media, also to the people who have the access to the social media. So all forms of communication to remain connected is what is required for all of us, whether it is for the people in the corporate houses, whether it is for the politicians, and more so for the politicians, because we need to represent the aspirations and expectations of the people. And when we talk about the aspirations and expectations of the people, unless we really can read the mind of the people, which can happen only when we remain always connected with the ground reality, with the people, it is very difficult as a policymaker to actually evolve a policy which is inconsistent with the aspirations and expectations of the people. And the moment we are capable of actually strategizing our developmental program, in adopting our policy decisions in a manner which is inconsistent with the aspirations and expectations of the people, we are there. We are there all the time. And we are then getting things right. We know what is good for the people, and we ultimately see that, okay, we got things right, therefore we are there. So that is what I see.
Social media, when you spoke about social media, I'll give you a couple of examples. Every agitational program or that we have undertaken, we've made sure that we are up there in the social media interacting. But there have been instances where, in the case of Tripura, where there was a boy who had the fluid accumulation in the head. Somebody got in touch with me through Facebook and through email. And we immediately responded. And I did it personally. And we didn't ask for his party affiliation. We don't ask for whether you're going to vote for me or not. You react as a human being. So I don't think social media should only be looked from a political point of view where you're trying to score a point. As individuals, as people who are concerned about this country, something happens where somebody is crossing over from Bangladesh and his land has been taken illegally. You need to respond to that. If you feel committed, why should Pradyot Debarman respond? Why cannot Padmaja respond? So I think social media is a very important tool for us to react and to point and present our views. And I think one thing where young politicians are better is to bring about clarity. I think we have to be very clear in what we want to achieve and what we want to present the people with. And if we can do that, clarity and honesty, if they are there, then integrity will automatically follow. But we need to be clear. And I think social media does help us in bringing forward that clarity.
We'll take a few questions from the audience. Can we please have the mics given to this gentleman here? Please identify yourself and limit yourself to one question. No opinions, please. Just a quick question.
Yeah, hi, I am Tulenam Lalu, also a student of politics in Hindu College. I had the opportunity of meeting Mr. Pradyot a couple of times, and in 3 years of my study of politics, I have realized that not even one politician in this country has ever forged this thing called Indianness. When India got its independence in 1947, there was nothing called Indian created. Whereas in countries like Italy, when in countries like America, every politician starts a dialogue, every politician starts by stimulating this thing called being American, being Italian. So what I feel that, what hope we expect from young politicians, and I always have a hope. And in fact, we are also active participants in a civil society today. So this is a humble request, and because when Dr. Shashi Tharoor came to my college, he also spoke about this.
Okay, great. So we got your question. Thanks. Would you like to take that,
Yeah.
Dr. Savar?
Often we have referred to few unpleasant things which are around us. And it is, again, very important for us to analyze critically, what politicians do. Many a time we will see that we as politicians, we are actually the people who are responsible in creating this division. I have seen politicians talking, lecturing, infuse a sense of insecurity amongst the mind of people, sense of insecurity against other communities. That is how we actually allow the seed of hatred to actually be implanted amongst the heart of the people. And that is what is being seen all across the country. Therefore, an enlightened, vigilant society which is going to actually change the whole political landscape. And it is no point blaming the politicians, because politicians don't elect themselves. It's the people who elect themselves, people who elect the politicians. Therefore, the most important thing that we need to do is to reach out to the civil society, reach out to the people, and show that we eventually have a very enlightened and vigilant civil society who cares for the nation, who cares for this great country.
Can I say something? You know, Tuleram, I've met him a couple of times. And this is a departure, I'm going to be honest about it. When you go to Delhi, since you're from Delhi, you will be there and you're from Northeast, you're from Shillong. Yaar, aap Indian nahi lagte ho yaar. Aap to China vaina ke ho. That's an accent? Perfect accent? Yeah. Is that a politician telling you that? That is a reflection of the society. And let's be very honest, when you spoke about Italy, when you spoke about, let's say, Finland or a European country, they're not as diverse as us. And the only Indianness is when your Jainsam is equally a national dress as a sari. Your Rignai or your Mekhla is as much a national, or your when you say a Jado or a Turungbai is as much important as a chicken biryani. That is the mindset that we have to inculcate. And it has to be a level playing field. I am an Indian, there's no doubt about it. But my culture, my identity, which is from Tripura or which is from Northeast, has to be equally respected in any part of the country. And I think this is not only left to a politician to do it, but this is left for us as society to react and to reform ourselves. Because India is not about one singular identity. India is about accepting every identity in this country.
Any other questions?
Hi, good afternoon. This question that I have in mind is something which I think a lot of youngsters here would also have. It's been 66 years since our independence. We are in the 67th year. And, you know, like Doctor said in the beginning, that there are some parties who have come into power because they've guaranteed that the prices of electricity will go down, or the prices of vegetables or, you know, our groceries will go down. But it's a sad fact that from the time I have understood education or about economy or civics in class, in school, we've been only talking about roti, kapda and makan, you know, and still the sad part is majority of people in our country do not have access to it, even after 66 years of independence. And two, is like he said, there are a lot of reforms that have been come into place by the government of various parties being in power in order to bring about a positive change to the society. There's a lot of money being funded. We hear about 27,000 crores or, you know, 20,000 crores, 400,000 crores being given by the government for something, for this policy, for that policy. Where does all this money go? I'm a taxpayer. I live in the city of Mumbai, where I think to have a road which doesn't have potholes, to drive on a road which doesn't have potholes is a luxury for us. So if we are paying so much of tax, you know, and like Sir said, like Pradyot said that, you know, if we want to bring about a change, we need to be part of politics. How can we enter politics when we are not sure if we will get what we want? You know, if we are denied of something since 66 years of independence, and we still follow the policy of divide and rule, come what may. It must be the normal citizen who's talking about it, but the politicians are the one who raise their voice and say that, oh, this is what the differentiation is. So, what do you have to say about that? I mean, I'm sorry I've confused you with a lot of things in head, but...
Yeah. What I should be responding to this is that, okay, we definitely talk about the taxpayers' money. Now, every money that is spent basically is structured in a manner which is perceived to be a requirement, a need. Now, we also must realize the fact that wealth of the nation cannot be sustainable unless, the whole population, which is around 1.2 billion population, are equally capable of feeling that they belong to this vibrant economy. That sense of belongingness to these changes, that socio-economic transformative changes that people are seeing around. Otherwise, what will happen is that people will lose hope. There will be frustration. And when majority of the population starts having frustration and anger and lose hope, it is very dangerous for democracy. Therefore, every government, it is incumbent upon any government to actually structure such policies so that there is an equitable socio-economic transformative changes across the nation. It cannot be in isolation, it cannot be in silos, but all the developmental programs must be structured so that there can be a balanced growth where the so-called roti, kapra and makan issue, all the time that we have been, investing for these three important requirements for any family, we can actually get out of that, and we can feel that, okay, now after roti, kapra and makan, people want to actually participate in the growth as a productive citizen. So therefore, there are many policies, many programs which are actually embarked upon. The only important thing is that this is not that it has been initiated only now. It has been there for donkey's years. But the fact is that whether they were effectively implemented, whether there has been an effective mechanism with the mandate of a law to ensure that all this money which are being pumped in for these different programs are actually used for the purpose for which they are meant. That's why you see lots of transformative changes in respect of legislation also, in respect of bringing various laws also. And I believe that with these transformative changes, we are in the right track. We are in the transition period. And with the aggressive, enlightened, younger generation, I think every politician will now be, always thinking, okay, what is that kind of response which will keep me alive and in circulation? And that is good for the nation.
That's a very, if I may add so, Doctor. Parvati just said that 66 years, the way she was emphasizing on the 66 years. Democracies evolve. 66 years into American democracy, you had a lot of problems. I'm not saying that we should wish away our problems. It took a good 155 years later for Martin Luther King to come. And then it took subsequently another 40 years to have an Obama come in and become the president. I'm talking about an evolving democracy, the champions of democracies. In India, India is the only country in Southeast Asia which has a democracy where the people have still accepted democracy. It is not there in Pakistan. It is not there in Nepal. It's on and off. It's not there it comes on and off in Bangladesh. Myanmar doesn't have it. Thailand is having a problem. India is the only country which has democracy. So there must be something good about it as well.
No, we have got the fundamentals right.
We have got the fundamentals right. Yes, politicians need to shape up or be shipped out. But also, we cannot have this level of cynicism where we say, it is the fault of the politician, that's why we don't have this. Politician is a most visible cog in a system. But that does not mean that the bureaucracy should be absolved of power. It does not mean that other important factors. Media has come alive today. Even they have a role to play. Today, it's not very popular to be a politician these days. But we are still there. And the reason why we are still there is because we believe that democracy brings the best in us. So let's not be cynical about it.
Because of the conviction.
Well, the fact of the matter is the people who started the slogan, Mera Neta Chor Hai, are netas themselves today. So obviously there's something you can do right as a politician. Clearly, we're completely out of time. I'm really sorry I can't take more questions from the audience. But before we let you go, very quick answers. For 2014, what's the figure the Congress is looking at? First you, Dr. Sangma.
Enough to form the government.
Put a figure to it. Just about enough.
Politicians don't say what they mean, and we don't mean what we say sometimes. But in this case, we are firm. We'll have enough numbers to form the government.
I think that we will definitely be the single largest party. And it is up to us to whether to form the government or not. We had it in '89 when we had 193 and we refused. We think that we will ensure that 2014 India comes out with a constructive government, and Congress will ensure that there will be consistency and constructiveness. I don't know if we'll form a government or not, but we will make sure that there's stability in this country, and only Congress party can bring the stability in this country.
Great. Hopefully in 2014 we'll be back in Shillong and we'll see how correct or wrong you were on those figures. Thank you so much, Dr. Sangma Pradyut
Thank you.
Devarman,
Thank
for
you.
being here with us.